بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. All praise is due to Allah, and may Allah's salah and salam be upon the Prophet and his followers and his companions and his family, the pure family of the Prophet ﷺ, and those who follow on their path until the day of resurrection. Now we move to chapter 3 from the book Al-Qawl al-Mufid ala Kitaab Tawheed, the beneficial saying or commentary on the book of Tawheed, or in explaining the book of Tawheed. Okay, so we are in chapter 3 now, the book of Tawheed, and the title of the chapter is من حقق التوحيد دخل الجنة بغير حساب. اللهم اجعلنا منهم. The one who purifies Tawheed, meaning from shirk, will enter paradise without giving an account. This chapter is like the completion to the one before it, because the one before it is under the title The Excellence of Tawheed and what it removes of sin. This chapter, chapter 3, is under the title The one who purifies Tawheed from shirk will enter paradise without giving an account. And this is like a completion for the chapter that came before it, because the chapter that came before was under the title The Excellence of Tawheed and what it removes from sin or of sins. So from the superiority of Tawheed is this great merit which is sought by every wise and sensible person, and that is admittance to paradise without account. Admittance to paradise without giving an account. Meaning, the one who purifies his Tawheed from shirk will not be held accountable for his sins nor for any other thing. And tahqiq al-Tawheed, the manifestation of Tawheed, means تخليصه من الشرك, purifying it from shirk, and this cannot take place except by fulfilling three matters. The manifestation of Tawheed, meaning purifying it from shirk, cannot take place except by fulfilling three matters. Number one, knowledge. You can't attain anything before you know of it. قال الله تعالى, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said concerning Tawheed in relation to knowledge in Surah Muhammad in 47:19, فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. And know, O Muhammad, and know, and this is the point of evidence, know, knowledge, that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah. The second condition is al-i'tiqad, having firm conviction, because if you know and you don't have conviction and you became arrogant, then you did not in reality fulfill the Tawheed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, listen to what He says concerning the kafirs, the non-believers. In Surah Sad, verse 5. أجعل الآلهة إلها واحدا إن هذا لشيء عجاب. Has He made the aliha, the gods, all into one God? Verily, this is a curious thing. So they didn't believe, they didn't single Allah out as the only true God worthy of worship. So the second condition is firm conviction. The third condition is submissiveness and following. So if you knew and if you had the firm conviction but you didn't submit yourself, then you didn't fulfill the Tawheed. قال الله تعالى in Surah Al-Saffat 71 verse 35 and 36 إنهم كانوا إذا قيل لهم لا إله إلا الله يستكبرون ويقولون أئنا لتاركو آلهتنا لشاعر مجنون. Surah Al-Saffat 37. What did I say? 71? No, I went far away. It is 37. 37. Truly when it was said to them La ilaha illallah, they puffed themselves up with pride. They denied it. And they said, are we going to abandon our gods for the sake of a mad poet? Arrogance. And therefore now, if the person fulfills the knowledge in Tawheed and conviction in it and submissiveness to it and to what it entails, then the paradise is guaranteed to him without being held accountable. And we don't have to say Insha'Allah, we don't have to say Allah willing, because this is an affirmed matter, a legally affirmed matter, affirmed. And that's why the author rahimahullah جزم في ذلك, affirmed it and was firm without saying Insha'Allah if one fulfills these three conditions. However, with respect to the particular person, the individual himself, al-mu'ayyan, فإننا نقول Insha'Allah, then we say if Allah wills he will enter paradise, meaning the particular person. But with respect to the ruling, we say anyone who fulfills the knowledge, have firm conviction and submissiveness, then paradise is guaranteed for him. But for the particular person, for the individual, we say Insha'Allah. And in this chapter now, the author mentions his evidences. And he cites first the following verse in Surah Al-Nahl, chapter 16, verse 120. إن إبراهيم كان أمة قانتا لله حنيفا ولم يك من المشركين. Verily Abraham was an ummah, a leader, Hanifan, worshipping none but Allah, and he was not one of those who were mushriks, associating partners with Allah in worship. Ibrahim was an ummah meaning imam, meaning leader. And earlier we talked about the term ummah, that it comes in the Quran on 4 meanings: Imam, leader; time; Jama'ah, group, community; and Deen, path, Millah. Inna Ibrahim kana ummatan. This is a praise from Allah, praising Ibrahim, that he was a followed Imam, leader. And because he was one of the noble messengers from the messengers of firmness on the Deen, on worshipping Allah alone. Furthermore, he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ibrahim, was an example in his actions and in his strive. He strived in the path of Allah against his people and suffered, and he was thrown into the fire and he persevered. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, the one free of all imperfection, tested Ibrahim by commanding him to slaughter his son, to sacrifice his only son, when he was in a state of youth, not old and neither young, but rather on the utmost age of attachment. Then Allah bestowed upon him, on his son, righteousness, obedience to Allah. In response to the command of Allah, what was his son's reply when he heard that the command of Allah came to his father to sacrifice him? We read in Surah As-Saffat 37 verse 102, قال يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. O my father. And when his son was old enough to walk with him, he said, O my son, I have seen in a dream that I am slaughtering you. So look what you think. He said, O my father, do that which you are commanded. Insha'Allah, if Allah will, you shall find me of as-sabirin, perseverant ones. So he didn't rebel, he didn't object, he didn't run away, but he wanted rather from his father to submit to the command of Allah. And this is from his good treatment to his father and his obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So contemplate and ponder to this great strength which is manifesting itself with full dependence upon Allah as well. That's why he said, سَتَجِدُنِي إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الصَّابِرِينَ. Do that which you are commanded, insha'Allah you shall find me of the perseverant, the patient ones. سَتَجِدُنِي, the letter seen in the word سَتَجِدُنِي denotes manifestation. Even then he didn't depend upon himself, but rather he sought help from Allah, where he said insha'Allah, if Allah will. So both complied, Ibrahim and his son submitted to Allah and laid his face down so that he slaughters him without seeing his face. Then the ease came from Allah. 37, 104, 105. فلما أسلما وتله للجبين وناديناه أي يا إبراهيم قد صدقت الرؤيا إنا كذلك نجزي المحسنين إن هذا لهو البلاء المبين. Then when they had both submitted themselves to the will of Allah, this is in 103, and he had laid him prostrate on his forehead or on the side of his forehead for slaughtering, we called to him, O Ibrahim, you have fulfilled the dream, verily thus do we regard the good doers. And then 106, verily inna hadha lahu al-bala'u al-mubin, verily that indeed was a manifest trial. And it is incorrect what is mentioned by some, that the knife which Ibrahim was about to use turned to the other side, or that the neck of his son turned into iron or something similar to that. There is nothing to this effect. These are incorrect reports. So in the verse of Surah An-Nahl, now back again, in which Ibrahim is cited as the Imam of Tawheed, Allah describes him as 16, back again, 120, Inna Ibrahim kana ummatan qanitan. Al-Qunut means dawam al-ta'a, continuity on worship, being obedient continuously to Allah. So he is obedient to Allah, firm on his obedience under all conditions. Just like his son Muhammad, yes, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions Allah on all of his conditions. If he stands up, he mentions Allah. If he sits, if he goes to sleep, if he awakes, if he eats, if he responds to the call of nature. So he is on continuous worship, day and night. Hanifan, ummatan qanitan. Hanifan, Ibrahim, Hanifan, meaning, it means, Hanifan means ma'ilan an shirk, turning away from shirk, inclined away from shirk, keeping away from that which opposes obedience. So he, Ibrahim, now is described by two things: ithbatun wa nafi, affirmation and negation, meaning with the positive and negative, quote unquote, descriptions. Ummah, leader, continuous in worship, inclined away from shirk, and this is all affirmation. And lam yaku min al-mushrikeen, and he was not from the mushriks. This is affirmation that he is on continuous tawheed. He was, subhanahu wa ta'ala, saved from shirk, although his nation were on shirk. So Allah described him by being continuously away from shirk in what he said, Hanifan, turning away from shirk, keeping away from which opposes obedience. وَلَمْ يَكُ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ ابتداءً, and initially he was not from the mushriks in the very beginning. And the evidence for that is that Allah made him an imam, a leader, وَلَا يَجْعَلُ اللَّهُ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا, and Allah does not assign a leader for people in ما لم يحقق التوحيد أبدا. من لم يحقق التوحيد أبدا. He does not assign as imams or leaders those who didn't fulfill the Tawheed, never fulfill the Tawheed. These are not assigned to be leaders and imams. And the one who ponders the status of Ibrahim alayhi salam and what occurred to him, then would find him that he was in a state of of perseverance and from continuity on worship, because no one will persevere on these great matters except the one who is certain regarding the reward. The one who is in doubt or hesitant would not be perseverant, because the soul does not abandon something except for the sake of that which is more beloved than that which it abandons. And it would not love something except that which it thinks is beneficial, or it is certain that it is beneficial. And here there is a very important point of benefit. We must know that Allah's praise of anyone from His creation is not intended that this praise reaches us only, but rather it is intended for two other important things. Number one, loving this thing or this one whom Allah is praising. Similarly, hating and disliking the one whom Allah spoke ill of and dispraised him for his evil. So we love Ibrahim alayhi salam because he was an imam, hanifan, qanitan lillah, a muwahhid on Tawheed, continuously on worship. And he was not from the beginning nor inclined to shirk. And وَنَكْرَهُ قَوْمَهُ, and we hate his people because they were ضالين, misguided. And we love the angels even though they are not from or like our nature or our kind. Why we love them? Because they are قائمون بأمر الله, they establish the command of Allah. And we hate the devils because they are rebellion and disobedient, and they are disobedient to Allah, and they are enemies to us and to Allah. And we hate the followers of the devils because they are disobeying Allah and they are enemies for Allah and for us. This is one of the two matters. The second matter is, or the other matter is, to follow them on these attributes which Allah praised them for. And we will be praised to the extent or to a proportional extent to that to our following of them, meaning we will receive the praise in proportional degree to our following of those whom Allah praises. That's why Allah says in Surah Yusuf chapter 12 verse 111, لقد كان في قصصهم عبرة لأولي الألباب. Verily in their narrations there are lessons for those who understand. Indeed, in their stories there is a lesson for men of understanding. Similarly, in Surah 60 Al-Mumtahina verse 4, قد كانت لكم أسوة حسنة في إبراهيم والذين معه. Indeed, there has been an excellent example for you in Abraham and those with him. لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر. For those who seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the last day. لقد كانت لكم أسوة حسنة في إبراهيم والذين معه. Verily you had an excellent example in Ibrahim and those with him. And in the other verse, in verse 6 as well, the same surah. Okay, 60 verse 6, لقد كان لكم فيهم أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر. Verily in them you had an excellent example for those who seek Allah and the last day. And this is a very important message. No, I'm sorry, it is 60 verse 6. Sorry, it's my mistake. This is a very important matter because sometimes a person may forget the first objective, that is loving those whom Allah praised. And this shouldn't really be the case, because loving for the sake of Allah and hating for the sake of Allah is from the most binding matters of faith. Point of benefit: the father of Ibrahim died as an unbeliever on kufr, and the correct matter which we believe in is that his name is Azar, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-An'am 6 verse 74, وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ آزَرَ أَتَتَّخِذُ أَصْنَامًا آلِهَةً. And remember when Ibrahim said to his father Azar, do you take idols as gods? Verily I see you and your people in manifest error. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentioned regarding Ibrahim and his father some other statements, as in At-Tawbah 9:114, وَمَا كَانَ اسْتِغْفَارُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ لِأَبِيهِ إِلَّا عَنْ مَوْعِدَةٍ وَعَدَهَا إِيَّاهُ. And remember when Ibrahim said to his father, okay, we covered that. Now in Surah At-Tawbah, and Ibrahim's invoking of Allah for his father's forgiveness was only because of a promise he, Ibrahim, had made to him, his father. But when it came or became clear to him, to Ibrahim, that his father is an enemy of Allah, he disassociated himself from him. Verily Ibrahim is awwah, has 15 different meanings, but the correct one seems to be that he used to invoke Allah with humility and glorify him, okay, and was forbearing. we know that he, okay, from see you tomorrow inshallah. And we know that he promised him to ask Allah, invoke Allah for his forgiveness, as we know. We take from Surah Ibrahim 41 this: رَبَّنَا اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيَّ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الْحِسَابِ. Our Lord, forgive me and my parents and all the believers on the day when the reckoning will be established. Also we know of his promise in Maryam 19:47. سأستغفر لك ربي إنه كان بي حفيا. I will ask forgiveness of my Lord for you, verily he is unto me ever most gracious. ولكن فيما بعد, but afterwards, تبرأ منه. Ibrahim disassociated himself completely from his father, and we put that in 9:114, and let's have it again so that people understand these verses correctly. فلما تبين له أنه عدو لله تبرأ منه إن إبراهيم لأواه حليم. And Ibrahim, invoking of Allah for his father's forgiveness. But when it became clear to him that his father is an enemy to Allah, he disassociated himself from him. Verily Ibrahim was awah, invoking Allah with humility, glorifying him and remembering him much, and was forbearing. As to the regard of Noah, regarding Noah alayhi salam, he said, as in Surah Nuh, verse 28, chapter 71, verse 28, please. رب اغفر لي ولوالدي ولمن دخل بيتي مؤمنا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات. My Lord, forgive me and my parents and him who enters my home as a believer and all the believing men and women. هذا يدل, this is evident that the parents of Noah were believers. The second point of benefit is, so much of the stories mentioned of the previous nations are mentioned without chain of narrations, and the important ruling is the following, to remember this: no one knows of the previous nations anything except through the revelation, and the evidence for this is in Surah Ibrahim 14 verse 9. ألم يأتكم نبأ الذين من قبلكم قوم نوح وعاد وثمود والذين من بعدهم لا يعلمهم إلا الله. We shall stop here inshallah ta'ala. We continue. So all of this discussion was for the point of evidence which the Shaykh rahimahullah cited from Surah An-Nahl chapter 16 verse 120 concerning Ibrahim. And tomorrow inshallah we'll continue with respect to the second citation, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ بِرَبِّهِمْ لَا يُشْرِكُونَ, and those who ascribe no partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala their Lord. Okay, this inshallah will continue tomorrow inshallah ta'ala.